Welcome to Module 1 of Anthropological Theory. This week we're going to focus on anthropology of the good and anthropology of the dark. The readings are going to start with an article in The Economist, from The Economist, about suicide. Since our last economic depression, if we want to call it that, the amount of suicide has not reduced. During that economic downturn, there was a great deal of depression and suicide as a result. But typically what happens after economic downturns, when that economy recovers, which it did, suicide diminishes. In this case, it did not. Additionally, since 2018, I think it was 2018, maybe 16, the highest rate of teenage death was suicide. Prior to that, it had been car crashes. A friend of mine killed himself in a car crash, drinking, driving cars. But now that has been surpassed by suicide. So the problem, we're starting with a real problem, suicide in America. And what we want to do is analyze that problem from the perspective of anthropological theory. Okay? That's what you can use theory for. Theory is like, one of these things, that you can, I forget what they're called, right? Where you can investigate a problem. That's why theories are helpful. You find problems in real life, and you use these interpretive lenses of theory to help analyze them. So the problem is suicide. The theories we're using are anthropology of the good and anthropology of the dark. And so the first reading is about suicide, and the next three are about the theories. There are some extra suggested readings, but they're only for background, for those who wish to go much deeper. Totally optional, the last few. A second thing we're doing is starting with theories that are of concern or value or discussion today. These theories, this anthropology of the good and anthropology of the dark, are the kind of thing that anthropologists are thinking about today, those who are up on theory at least. And so I wanted to start there as well to help you feel some of the passion that I'm feeling. The big thing about a theory is that it's an explanatory model. It will hopefully explain a lot more than the previous theories did. That's always the pitch of a theory. If theories get a lot of criticism, that means people are afraid that they're correct, that it does have a lot of explanatory power. If no one reads the theories, then it's a crappy theory, and it does not have a great deal of explanatory power. So, this anthropology of the good and dark anthropology are getting a lot of attention, and that means, they have a lot of explanatory power. Another thing about them that's interesting, and about this course that's interesting, is something that my faculty at Columbia University told me when I first got there as a graduate student in anthropology. They said, at root, you all are from a theoretical school already. One of the previous 20 that are existing in anthropology, you're probably all adherents to one school or another, or maybe two different ones. And the only difference between a layperson and a scholar is that we scholars, they were talking about themselves, we know what theoretical school, we align with naturally or whatever. And you students don't. So that's another challenge for us this semester. What kind of anthropological theory makes most sense to you? Do you personally feel is the most correct? Is the way you want to go, and all this sort of stuff. Throughout the semester, I'm going to be bugging you about that sort of thing to help you understand what kind of theory, works best for you. And this good and dark distinction is the first question. Are you more of an anthropologist of the dark who wants to focus more on the depravity, the glass half empty, because you're angry about poverty, and I'm angry too. But you want to be really critical of it, so you might focus on Anthropology of the Dark. Talk about the poverty and how oppressive it is for rich people to oppress the poor. That is kind of where Anthropology of the Dark focuses on. Anthropology of the Good is more on the glass half full rather than half empty, a little more optimistic. I think I'm more Anthropology of the Good. My dissertation was on poor Latinos and education. Education for Latinos, they're always at the bottom of the rung. And this is not because Latinos have low intelligence. It's because the system is designed to screw them, in many ways. This was the research I did 20 years ago. And it's still, in existence. And so I went in there very well aware of this horrible oppressive thing, wanting to change it like everyone else. But my focus was not on how the oppression was working, the social reproduction factors, you could call it. Rather, I was focusing on a group of very clever Homo sapiens sapiens, members of my species, who socially were able to make great lemonade with a few lemons, as it were. Under this oppressive regime, that they were in, they still, I'm talking about the parents, the teachers, the students, the community, were able to adapt to it, which is what humans are really good at, and still excel and thrive, regardless of the constraints put against them. Both anthropologists of the good and dark are against oppression. But that's not the issue. The issue is how we're going to look at it. What are we going to focus on in our research? They're both legitimate sides as well. It's not to say one's better than the other. But what the interesting thing is for us is, for one, you got to learn the difference. But two, you got to start asking yourself, what am I like? Or other faculty in our department that you have classes with. What are they? Are they an anthropologist of the good or dark? That's the kind of thing I want you to do. Okay. Again, welcome to Module 1.